Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Abrams, and this is Court Camp.
Call the buzzer. Call the...
Take him back! Take him out!
You die in prison as well. First up, we're at the Pierce County Courthouse in Tacoma, Washington. We're hearing for an unnamed Level 3 sex offenders underway. Level 3 sex offenders are classified as posing the highest threat to public safety. The courtroom's nearly empty. In the back, 2 courtroom deputies appear to be carrying on a casual conversation. In the front of the room, a judicial assistant works on her computer. The defendant, who is uncuffed, appears calm, sitting next to his lawyer. Everything seems pretty casual. And then, this happens. Out of nowhere, the defendant rushes toward the judicial assistant. The female deputy springs after him from behind, while her partner heads in the other direction. The defendant lunges at the assistant, who, along with other members of the court, quickly flee the area. The deputy catches up with the defendant and wrestles with him as he smashes a computer monitor, before finally being slammed to the floor. Her partner arrives to assist. The defendant is subdued and then cuffed. A few moments later, several deputies arrive and haul the defendant into custody for destruction of property. It's unclear why the defendant seemingly went after the judicial assistant. Fortunately, there were no injuries, and the total damage was under $1,000. As the fast-acting deputy ensured the only thing hurt was a computer monitor.
Did you ever cry for your boys? Because I've done it twice, and I cried both times.
Next, we head inside the Elyria Municipal Court outside Cleveland, Ohio, for the sentencing of Joseph Winkler, who's pled no contest to child endangerment. His wife, Jonna Winkler, also pleaded no contest to 2 counts of child endangerment and persistent disorderly conduct. Winkler and his wife routinely locked their 2 teenage boys in a bedroom with nothing but 2 bare mattresses. The boys, who were homeschooled, were not permitted to leave, escaped by crawling out a window and walking to a police station. Winkler, the boys' biological father, put most of the blame on Jonna, the boy's stepmother. He's in court to learn his sentence from Judge Gary Bennett, who has some strong words for Winkler, as well as a few point-blank questions.
This was happening to your boys. What were you thinking?
I just wanted them to be successful. I wanted them to be honest and truthful. I wanted them to be happy. Just got once you push it, gone too far.
Winkler's response comes up short for Judge Bennett, who has more questions.
Where did these ideas come from? I mean, that's made for TV kind of stuff. That doesn't happen in reality. People don't do that to their children. And I want to know why. How are you talking you're going to raise happy, healthy boys if that's the life they live? If you're 13 years old and you wake up every morning on the floor of a mattress without any covers, in underwear, and that's your day, tell me how you're going to raise happy, healthy children in that environment.
A stammering Winkler struggles to answer.
Explain that.
I wanted them to be over.
So why did you stop it? Why did you say enough's enough, Johnny? You're not doing this to my children anymore.
Judge continues to grill the defendant.
Did you ever cry for your boys? Because I've done it twice, and I cried both times.
I wanted their punishment to be over.
But you didn't end it. They ended it themselves by crawling out a window in their underwear, packing dog food and clothes in a backpack, and taking themselves to the police department. That's how it ended. You didn't end it. It ended because they finally got desperate enough that they ended it themselves. They had the courage to do it by themselves. Tell me why you didn't do it.
Winkler then goes on to blame his wife.
Many times I fought a lot of things. I did fight. I fought. I always, with my wife. I've been causing a lot of arguments, and I tried to fight against my wife, and she always broke me down. I tried to fight for that.
You're a grown man, get out.
I should.
You walked out of one marriage, why couldn't you get into this one? If this woman was torturing your children, why didn't you do something about it?
Finally, Judge Bennett issues his sentence. 2 counts of child endangerment, Winkler sentenced to 7 months in the county jail. Jonna Winkler, who pleaded no contest to the 3 counts, was also sentenced to 7 months in jail. As for the children, they were placed in the custody of their biological mother. Nevada.
The state of Nevada, Michelle Lynn Taylor.
34-year-old Michelle Lynn Taylor has been charged with lewdness with a child under the age of 14. An incident in which she allegedly kissed her friend's 13-year-old son and forced him to touch her breast. The victim and his younger brother were at Taylor's house playing video games. Taylor's mother was in the home, but the boy's parents weren't there at the time of the incident. Taylor claimed she was intoxicated at the time and remembered roughhousing with the boy, but said she never forced him to touch her inappropriately. She was ultimately found guilty and now faces a severe mandatory sentence under Nevada state law.
Your Honor, there's only one penalty that's available for the court to award to the defendant, and that's imprisonment in the state prison for life.
That's right, a sentence of life in prison.
I suspect that the defense is going to tell you, well, that this sentence is way out of line. But it was a sentence that the legislature of Nevada has created for this type of crime.
Taylor will be eligible for parole after 10 years. Her attorney Alina Kilpatrick argues the crime doesn't fit the one-size-fits-all sentence imposed by the state.
Your Honor, the jury was not allowed to know the potential sentence in this case, and the legislature doesn't know the facts. When evaluating this case, Your Honor, we cannot think that this is a 10-year sentence, because it's not. This is a sentence of life, because the legislature doesn't know the circumstances.
Those circumstances, Kilpatrick explains, include various mitigating factors that weren't allowed to be taken into consideration during the trial.
The mandatory sentence of life does not allow this court the discretion to consider the fact that a forensic psychiatrist said that Michelle Taylor is at a low risk of reoffending, that she was under the influence at the time of this offense, and that she herself suffered unimaginable, egregious sexual abuse as a child. Absolutely unimaginable and egregious.
To further support her argument that the punishment doesn't fit the crime, Kilpatrick lays out a graphic comparison to another case.
Now, the most horrifying case of sexual abuse that I could find perpetrated by a woman came out of Florida, and that was, in fact, clearly egregious. Miss Simmons was having a 5-year-old perform sex acts on her while her boyfriend was videotaping it, and she got 70 years. 70 years, although a stiff sentence, is less than life.
Growing more impassioned in her argument, Kilpatrick offers yet another disturbing example of the discrepancy in punishment when compared to another crime.
The minimum penalty for first-degree murder is 50 years. She is getting a greater penalty for having a boy touch her breast than she would if she had killed him. Because the statute is unconstitutional. I am asking this court not to impose the mandatory sentence of life in prison because it shocks the conscience and is contrary to the 8th Amendment and everything the Constitution and justice stands for. Thank you.
Despite her attorney's plea, Michelle Taylor received the mandatory sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years. A later appeal of the case was denied by the Nevada Supreme Court. Taylor was released on parole in 2019 after serving the minimum 10 years. Next, we're in La Plata, Maryland for a jury selection. 25-year-old Delvon King is representing himself today on weapons charges after he was caught carrying a regulated firearm during a traffic stop. Just 3 months earlier, King was appearing at a preliminary hearing for the charges when he fled the courtroom and temporarily eluded police. Because of the fleeing incident, King is required to wear a remote control stun cuff on his leg while appearing in court. And now, as he reads a prepared argument,
Statute of Nevada,
Stop! seems to be another problem. At the bench is 72-year-old Robert Naley. The judge retired the previous year, but was called back part-time to hear cases. This hearing got off to a rocky start when King claimed to be a Moorish American, an offshoot of the anti-government sovereign citizen movement, and insisted his true name was not Delvon King. Now, as Judge Naley explains the jury selection process, King continues reading from his prepared argument, which questions the court's jurisdiction over him.
Stop. Mr. Sheriff, do it. Use it. All right, I'm going to take 5. Don't worry. Calms down and I'll be back. Yes, sir. 5 minutes.
In case you missed that, after King refuses to stop speaking,
Stop.
Judge Naley orders the courtroom deputy to activate the stun cuff on King's leg.
Mr. Sheriff, do it. Use it.
The deputy calmly approaches King, who doesn't appear to see him, and slides his chair out of the way. While King writhes in pain on the courtroom floor, Judge Naley decides to exit the courtroom and take a short break.
All right, I'm going to take 5. Yes, sir. 5 minutes.
Following the brief recess, Judge Naley resumed to probation before judgment, meaning in his case, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail on the weapons charge, most of which he'd already served, and in return, no actual conviction would be added to his record. The same cannot be said for Judge Robert Naley. After the courtroom video was made public, the Maryland Court of Appeals immediately rescinded Naley's ability to hear cases. He would also later be charged with a misdemeanor civil rights violation, to which he pleaded guilty, and was sentenced to a year probation, ordered to take anger management classes, and pay a $5,000 fine. Following his sentence, Robert Naley was banned from the bench for life. Next, we're in Charleston, West Virginia, for a pretrial hearing.
Henry T. Eldon. Henry T. Eldon. Henry T. Eldon.
Henry T. Eldon is in the courtroom, but he is refusing the magistrate's order to come forward to the defendant's table.
I called him thrice. I have no response. Get up here in this seat right now.
That's right, the judge called him thrice. Eldon is facing multiple charges, including fraudulent official proceedings and fraudulent service of indebtedness related to falsely filing claims with the court. Today he's joined in the courtroom by a friend who's recording the proceedings on his cell phone and getting involved himself.
I'm a witness, okay? Okay, what I'm saying is, he is present, and he's chosen not to step up there. He's asking not for a appointed lawyer. He doesn't need an attorney.
So you're acting in defense?
I'm not acting. I'm a witness. This is American National.
American National.
American National is another nod to the sovereign citizen movement that both he and the defendant identify with. Eventually, Eldon does respond to the magistrate, Ward Harshbarger, but still refuses to come forward.
The court reporter has to be established before anything can proceed.
Well, okay, well, get up in your seat now, and we will wait for that. We have some preliminary thing.
We're all waiting for the court reporter to be.
Do it now. All right, this is State versus Henry T. Eldon Jr. Mr. Eldon, I need to have a seat at the defendant's table.
For the record, I'm
Shut
a
up and
witness.
sit down. You sit down and not say another word.
Seemingly getting more aggravated, the magistrate turns to his courtroom deputy for assistance.
What do you get, Mr. Eldon? Will you show you where the seat is, please?
May I have permission to speak?
You may have a seat right there. You may have a seat right there. You are going to be held in contempt.
All right, Mr. Eldon, can you stand up for me, please? Turn around, place your hands behind your back, if you would.
And who are you? And do you have a warrant, a signed
I do
warrant?
not have a warrant. I've just been made aware by the judge that he wants me to take you into custody for obstructing judicial process, okay?
But before the magistrate had the defendant arrested and cuffed, he pulls a final move out of every parent's playbook and counts to 3.
1. Have a seat. 2. Have a seat, please.
I would like to speak, and I have information to present. I don't know how I'm instructed.
Last warning. Get in the seat and we'll proceed.
Again, locked in a stalemate, the magistrate decides to just get down to business.
How do you plead?
I would like to see your oath of office. I'd like to see your letter accepting and acknowledging your office. And I would like to see the same for the prosecuting attorney. And to know the names of everyone in this room. I need that before I understand what's going on, sir.
So the answer, and I will answer for him, is not guilty. Okay?
I haven't made any plea, nor should you make any
All
plea.
right.
I don't accept that.
Okay.
I don't accept
Well,
anything.
Do you accept it or not?
I did
Mr.
not,
Brown?
in your own
You
position.
may score him out. Court adjourned.
The court wouldn't confirm the details, but according to Eldon, he did not appear for his next court hearing and was arrested on a bench warrant and served 2 weeks in jail. He also says the original fraudulent service and fraudulent official proceedings charges against him were later dropped.
Robert Stewart. Hello, sir.
Next, we go to Bond Court in Broward County, Florida. Judge John Hurley presiding. The defendant is 64-year-old Robert Stewart, who's charged with battery and violating an injunction to stay away from Ronald Stewart, his own brother.
There's a no contact order with your brother, allegedly, and they said that your brother said you ended up in his home after they had told you not to come around. So
The prosecutor, who's off camera, advises Judge Hurley of the details of the case.
Ronald Stewart was entertaining guests for the holiday. Robert Stewart attacked him by punching him in the chest, knocking him to the floor. The attack was unprovoked, which was witnessed by the 2 other guests. Ronald Stewart has a serious heart condition and is in fear that his brother Robert will continue to harm him. Defendant Robert Stewart admitted to the battery, saying that his brother Ronald wants too much from him.
Judge Hurley has all the information he needs and is prepared to set bond.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set your bond on count 1 at $2,500 based on the court's concern for the safety of your brother and your apparent order. No contact directly or indirectly with Ronald Stewart. You must stay 500 feet from him at all times. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
With a full docket still on his plate, Judge Hurley tries to keep things moving. But Stewart isn't finished.
I'm a Navy SEAL, sir. I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm a Navy SEAL, sir. I'm a Navy SEAL.
And now he's curious.
Are you really?
Yes, I am, sir.
Where did you go?
Retired 50 years.
Where'd you go to?
I went to Hofstra University, Kings Point, and then I went to Subic Bay.
A skeptical Judge Hurley decides to put Stewart to the test.
Wait, let me finish. Where did you go to SEAL training? There's only one place in the world you can go to SEAL training. Where's that?
Now on the spot, the self-proclaimed Navy SEAL struggles to come up with the answer.
Subic Bay.
No, you're wrong. That's not it.
Well, okay. Well, all right. Well, I did it for 50 years, so I knew everybody.
Okay, well, just tell me where you
I'm
went to
50 years.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. Coronado, California, San Diego. That's the only place that we can go to SEAL training.
All right, thank you. Very good weather there. I love it.
Stewart eventually pleads no contest and is sentenced to 210 days in jail with credit for time already served. When asked about Stewart's history, the Navy responded saying for security reasons they would neither confirm nor deny SEAL status. So Judge Hurley covers his bases just in case.
Good luck, sir. Thank you for your service.
That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching.